Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. This is Mark speaking, and it's my pleasure today to present to you 5 SmartNode use cases within the Microsoft environment, Skype for Business, along with 2 of my colleagues. So I have Miklos on my side, who was responsible for the certification part of Microsoft Skype for Business, and also I have our Vice President of Business Development, Buddy, with me. He's going to cover some of the Pro AV use cases that are also part of today's webinar. So, hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Very good. So, yeah, as I've mentioned already on the agenda, a few words about the Skype for Business certification that we have done just recently. This is going to be covered by Miklos. Then we're going to talk about the use cases, so that should help you understand a little bit more how and in which way the SmartNode products are fitting into the ecosystem of Microsoft, what benefits there are, what you can do, and so on and so forth. Then we're going to talk about the supported products so that you can see which kind of smart nodes with which kind of interfaces, which kind of performance you can expect going into Microsoft Skype for Business. And then we're going to talk about the documentation there, so where you can easily find all these things being documented. At the end, we allow some time for Q&A. However, feel free to ask any questions during the webinar using the panel of the tool we're using today. So if there's anything unclear, we're more than happy to answer you any questions. So with that said, I think we can get started with the first part. Miklos, the floor is yours. Just go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning. Depends on the region. If you will look into the documentation, which we will share on the last slide of this presentation, you will see that the Skype for Business certification or validation has been done through a third-party lab named TechVision. You will see all of their logo on the documentation. So first of all, let me talk about a little bit why we choose the TechVision as a third-party lab. For circumstances point of view, you need to know that the Microsoft certification is no longer performed directly by Microsoft, but there are some few accredited lab around the globe who is of course certified by Microsoft to pursue and to fulfill the test requirements for Skype for Business. So Microsoft currently prescribes that the partners looking for interoperability or qualifying towards the Microsoft Skype for Business should use one of their third-party lab, accredited lab, and that's where we started to work together with the TechVision. In spite that the certification program is not maintained directly by Microsoft, the certification requirements remain the same. So if somebody has some previous experience how the Microsoft build up the silos of the product which they are certifying, there are ESBCs and there are gateway categories. So we fulfilled all the requirements which was part of the official certification program for ESBC and also for enhanced gateway. And Mark, if I can ask you to skip for the other side. And what we validated with the Skype for Business, virtually we validated all of our recent product, which is running the Trinity software. This includes all of our future product, which will run the Trinity software, because our goal during the certification was not only certify some specific product, but certify a major software release, which is running on all of our products, all of our gateways, and all of our SBCs. So through the certified product list, you will see all our SBC, all our gateway from the current portfolio and all the future portfolio which includes the products which is running the Trinity software, will be included. And very importantly, it's not just including the hardware-related products, but the recently released virtual SmartNode, which we have just promoted a few weeks or months ago. That's also a Trinity-based product, so it's fulfill all of the requirements which was part of the certification program. And it's here I would like to note here that the basic gateway certification, what we have done with the smartware, that's still maintained and is still listed on the TechNet, so you can find the page on the Microsoft page for this certification. Mark?
Very good. Thanks a lot, Miklos, for.
I would still talk about a little bit about the supported features, if you don't mind. That's my
sure.
that's my
Yeah. Just keep going.
Yes. So here I just grabbed a few major supported feature which we certified with Microsoft. Beside the media bypass, caller ID restriction, call park retrieve, simultaneous ringing, etc., etc. I just marked 3 of it, which is differ from the previous certifications because there was no certification program for that. The call forking and recently the IPv6 and the TLS and SRTP. Here I must note that all of our Trinity products support the Microsoft requirement for call forking and IPv6 and TLS and SRTP. And now there is the point, Mark, I would like to hand over the word to you to talk about the use cases. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good. So yeah, as you can see, there is a lot of things that you are getting with the SmartNode products there. And now I'm gonna put this into a context of the different use cases as we're seeing them out there. So I'm just going to start with the simple one, the SPC use case, which, however, is not just a simple SPC, but also a hybrid kind of device, as indicated here. So the SmartNode is optionally coming with TDM interfaces, which allows your clients to integrate legacy equipment, whether this is a PBX or some old analog telephones. So that's a really nice thing there and providing additional value to the solution. However, the main functionality of the SmartNode acting as an ESPC in such a use case is it's providing the demarcation between the LAN, the LAN network of the customer side and the WAN that is typically unsecure. And talking about security, so the SmartNode is delivering this security to protect the LAN network of the customer, so we can operate the customer's network in an unsecure way, let's say by using plain SIP signaling and plain RTP. However, the SmartNode SPC in this case would encrypt all this signaling, but also RTP on the WAN side, making the whole communication secure. On top of that, there is a QoS engine in all of our SmartNodes, which are capable of setting the priority on all the voice traffic. You can do tagging, for instance. So there's a lot of additional features making a great experience to your clients what the voice quality is concerned. Another specialty there is that Microsoft, as you all know, is doing SIP signaling over TCP, while service providers, for instance, usually support SIP UDP or prefer using SIP UDP over UDP. So that's where the SmartNode acting as the service demarcation and SPC there is capable of handling this translation from SIP TCP over to UDP. Switching to the next use case, which is our Interop application here. So talking about the UDP to TCP conversion is certainly another thing that is helpful and beneficial, connecting uncertified devices to a Microsoft environment, Microsoft Skype for Business, for instance. So whether that's any kind of SIP phones or if it's kind of intercom systems or paging applications, paging devices there. So the SmartNode here is doing all the conversion that is required so that it can seamlessly and easily be integrated into a Microsoft environment. Another thing there is RDP and DTMF transcoding, another benefit that you can get by using SmartNodes, and also, as highlighted before already by Miklos, IPv6 and IPv4 conversion. So just again, to be mentioned, all our SmartNodes there running the latest software have a IP dual stack. So that means that you can really do all the conversions there from IPv4 to IPv6 on an IP level, but it's also integrated and supported for what the SIP protocol is concerned. So that means the device fully supports SIP over IPv6. There is, talking about SIP, a SIP registrar functionality on the SPC, of course, which allows SIP phones or all these devices as listed there, registering, connecting to the SmartNode, so where the SmartNode is aggregating the SIP registers and acting as a SIP server, as a SIP registrar, doing the mediation back to the Microsoft environment. Good. Now, moving on to the third use case here, which is similar to the first one I presented to you. However, it's showing how the migration is done or can be done at the customer premise. So usually customers prefer to not switch from one day to the other, so do a hard cut sort of, but instead migrating extensions or users one by one from a existing older telephony system over to a newer system, Skype for Business in this case, where they're going to use SIP telephones instead of their analog or system telephones talking to their PBX, or maybe even soft clients running on their PC or laptop. So here the SmartNode will play a dominant role where it is handling all the different protocol conversions, but also the call routing. So with a very flexible call routing engine that we have there, you can really support a smooth transition from an old system to a new one, and even going beyond that, going to the Skype for Business Online. Good. Now, moving on, another use case here is in terms of performance. So you saw it before with the transcoding capabilities a SmartNode have and can offer. So there is the possibility to also offload your infrastructure or the customer's infrastructure of the Skype for Business, where Skype for Business software is running on, in terms of codec transcoding, a functionality that is supported by the SmartNodes, which again helps to increase performance on those servers. That works for regular codec translation, but also for DTMF method translation. We support a echo cancellation, so there's many features coming along with the SmartNode having the DSP capabilities. Good. Now moving on to the next use case, I want to hand over the word to Buddy.
Hello, everybody. So at a high level, the use case for pro audio or pro AV applications really isn't that different in terms of legacy adoption and being able to certify third-party non-certified equipment for Skype for Business. But on a detail level, it's sort of a different market and maybe something that's unfamiliar to some of the audience that's on here today. So I'm just going to, just a real quick slide to overview what we're talking about. So the brands on the side, QSC, Biamp, Shure, Symmetrics, BSS. There are several others that create these audio network, and the term DSP is used in the industry a little bit different, same concept, but the DSP is a processor that takes multiple audio inputs and has multiple audio outputs and creates a matrix network of audio within a building. And I'll show you in the next slide what that can look like. These systems are yeah, so you can see it's a big facility with lots of conference rooms. That's an actual use case for a QSC system. If you go back to this slide real quick. Okay, so these systems are used in conference room huddle rooms, which is a huge part of the AV industry right now. It's probably the largest growing product sector of the AV industry, outfitting conference rooms with you know, maybe not what some people are used to with just a computer, but we're talking about multiple microphones, zoned microphones, zoned speaker outputs, multiple speaker outputs, and large conference rooms. They're also used in training facilities, hospitality like hotels, restaurants, bars, theme parks, those sorts of facilities, and that's also widely used in large venues like sports venues, airports, convention centers, those sorts of things, not for conferencing in those cases, but maybe for mass notification. The DSP processors themselves, they mix and aggregate many audio inputs. Typically, they're going to be microphones either ceiling mounted or on the desk or on the conference room table microphones, and then also many outputs as well. You know, speakers in the rooms. It could be an output to a monitor, things like that. And so all of this audio goes into a network, and it's able to be matrixed point to point within the building. These DSPs do things like audio gain control for multiple voices in a room. They do echo cancellation, gating and noise reduction, mix minus. So in other words, they can have zoned audio where your audio source is muted from the speakers that are presenting the audio in your zone, and different codecs. So that's sort of a quick overview. In no way intended to be a training on audio DSPs. But just to give you an overview, now we can go ahead and switch to the other slide. This was a nonprofit building that was done with QSC. Now, we did not do Skype for Business in this application, but it was a great way to illustrate what's going on. So here we have 2 floors of a building, multiple meeting rooms, both large and small, huddle rooms. All of those rooms have multiple microphones and multiple speaker outputs, to be able to, within the building, to be able to share that meetings. Say you're having a training in the multi-purpose auditorium, that audio and video can be then through the matrix be sent up to the 3rd floor to, say, the executive conference room where they can watch up there. What they need, though, in most of these applications is an external connection, which makes the whole conferencing useful, to be able to bring people from the outside into your conferences. And it's done a number of ways. But what we've seen in this marketplace, quite a bit, they use SmartNodes, and many of those companies that I listed on the previous slide actually recommend patent SmartNode for these applications. For example, QSC, if you go to their website, they have a 3rd-party recommendation list, and the only viable gateways that they list are the patent SmartNodes. And in many cases, they're just trying to get standard PTSN connectivity, analog telephony access into their audio network to be able to do these conferences. So currently, none of the DSP processors that are on the market right now support Skype for Business. Most of them either have integrated voice over IP capability, or they have a plug-in daughter card to enable voice over IP. In talking with many of those manufacturers, I've talked with QSC and Biamp and Shure. All of them have indicated that they get frequent requests to be able to get their audio network systems onto Skype for Business for exactly that, for remote communications. So it's a great opportunity for anybody that's selling SmartNodes to be able to branch into a directly adjacent market. By putting the SmartNode just like in Mark's slides, now at this point, we're talking about a very similar use case where all of that DSP, all of the microphones, everything that's behind the SmartNode can now adopt our certification, Patent's Skype for Business certification, to be able to communicate over WAN. In addition, this market is not really aware of the need and the use of an SPC. Most of the system integrators that I've talked with aren't even familiar with what that is or why they would need it. But again, it's another opportunity in addition to the Skype for Business connectivity to educate this market on how they can protect their networks above and beyond what a firewall can do. And then lastly, SmartNode in this position at the WAN can also put a gateway in that position, and it can be used for PTSN failover, just additional value added to these networks. So that's sort of the overview. Is there another slide? Oh yeah, one more slide. So I wanted to point out that it's not just conference rooms. This is a system in the city of Holland and Michigan here in the US. The basic system is they have this causeway where they have events, music events or speakers or whatnot, and they have a lot of speakers that are on these light poles throughout this causeway. That is an audio DSP network, and it's linked back to the Civic Center where there's a QSC core. And that core then has a SmartNode attached to it, which allows it to connect into the analog PBX. What that's used for is the first responders, the police, and the fire department are able to, using their PBX, dial an extension into this QSC core and be able to utilize all of that audio in the causeway for mass notifications. If a big storm is coming, if there's an active shooter, whatever this emergency could be, they have access to be able to notify the entire town by just dialing an extension on their PBX. You can easily see in this application how instead of an analog PBX, perhaps they have a Skype for Business system that they need to connect into. So it's just another example that it's outside of the telephony world, but it's still a viable application, and there's a lot of these. This particular one is outside. Pretty much every airport that you go to, every train station that you go to, every convention center you go to has some sort of audio DSP network in it. And so that's just another, I just wanted to broaden the scope and show one more example. That's it.
Very good. Great. Thank you very much, Buddy. So that's very interesting, and yeah, it really shows how flexible the SmartNode is, and that it's not just a gateway, but also an SPC and an Interop device, which is capable of covering many use cases. Talking about the device, so our standard portfolio there is certified with Skype for Business. So it's the BRI portfolio, of course, as well as the analog there. So talking about simple gateways. The same thing for PRI, so E1, T1 trunks. You might want to connect to a Skype for Business environment, or if it's a legacy PBX with E1 or T1 links. So here is your SmartNode that you can choose from, starting from 1 port up to 4 ports with different ports on it, depending on the model that you choose. Then the SPC, so we talked a lot about that, and you can see there is many products that we have available in the SPC space, depending on the use case, depending on the capacity that you need, the simultaneous number of calls, you can pick the right SPC there. So really a cost-effective solution then for you and your clients. There is the hybrid SPCs are listed here as well, 55, 30, 40, 50, and 70. So at the bottom row there, you can see those are coming with TDM interfaces supporting the smooth transition. There is some new products going to be launched in this quarter, the 5600, which is an SPC going up to 1,000 simultaneous SIP calls. Besides the virtual SmartNode that can act as an SPC as well, but is not limited to that, which can, depending on the underlying hardware and server farm, support thousands of simultaneous SIP calls. More information for you, documentation about SmartNodes and the Skype for Business certification that we have done. You can find on the patent.com/partners webpage there. So we have a dedicated page for Microsoft where you can also find the previous certifications that we have done for OCS initially 10 years ago, then followed by Link certifications and now Skype for Business. There is a configuration guide available that allows your technicians to easily set up a SmartNode within a Skype for Business environment. And we also have a solutions brief that you can find under the solutions category of our webpage. Good, that's it so far from our side. Maybe one additional note here that I can unveil at this point already. So we don't just stop with the Skype for Business certification. So we're actively working on the Microsoft Teams certifications there. So please just reach out to us if there is any questions, whenever you're working on a project for Microsoft related topics there, whether it's Skype for Business or Teams. We're more than happy to give you any proposals, what kind of devices to be used or how you can architect your solutions. More than happy to do that. Now, let's see if there are any questions from the audience at this point. And if not, feel free to post any questions on the panel. I think we still have 1 or 2 minutes left of our 30 minutes slot of today's webinar. So I don't see any questions, so that means everything was clear. And yeah, if there might be questions at a later stage, so don't hesitate. You have our contact details. Send us an email, give us a call. We're more than happy to answer any questions or, as I said, help you designing a solution, giving you quotes for a BOM, for instance. So more than happy to do that. So with that said, I would like to thank all of you taking the time listening to us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of the upcoming webinars sometime soon. Thanks again. Wish you all a successful day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.